What's up, guys? I wanted to go over some hidden status effects and how they work with some of these perks. These perks being Invigorated Punishment, Penetrating the Empowered, Ghostly Embrace, which is the unique perk for Ghostly Touch, Distained Infliction as well. And these hidden status effects, these are like the ultimate combat trophy, right? This is a status effect that does not show up on your UI tray. Your UI tray is like the status effects that you get on top of your stamina bar. So let's take a look at Invigorated Punishment. This is abilities deal 1% bonus damage per buff on a player. And if you look down here to referenced abilities, the labels that it's specifically looking for is buff and non-dispellable buff. Okay, so we are going to go to the status effects tab. Let me clear this from before. So to better search for status effects that apply for Invigorated Punishment, we are going to get rid of all of these that say status effects AI because those are not related to PvP. So go ahead and select this, click the exclamation mark, and those aren't going to show up anymore. And then for effect categories, we are going to look up buff and non-dispellable buff because those are the labels that it's looking for here. And the status effect that I specifically wanted to talk about was this one called Ammo Tier Removal Damage Buff. This is the buff that they've added for Aeternum because they removed ammo and arrows for the bow, blunderbuss, and the musket. This being a non-dispellable buff, this means that it will be affected by Invigorated Punishment. And this is specifically if you have your bow unsheathed. So if you have a bow equipped and a spear equipped, you will not be taking this extra damage if your spear is out. You will be taking that extra damage if your bow is out. Now, is this really anything that you should worry about if you are the bow user? Not really, not at all. But it might be something to consider if you are running Invigorated Punishment. Like, this might be one more reason to run it. Okay, so some other ones that affect Invigorated Punishment. Let's actually go to Show in UI Tray. This is going to categorize the status effects by whether or not they show up in your UI tray. So let's set that to false, not set, 0, and false. And let's see here. The ones that I wanted to talk about was Warhammer Pass Sprint Damage Reduction. This is the status effect on the Warhammer tree, where if you're sprinting, you're going to be taking reduced damage. And again, this is absorption, so that's a great perk, and it is not worth taking off. That's not the point that I'm trying to make here. This is just showing that Invigorated Punishment might be a little better than you expect. Some other perks here, there's two other ones if I can find them real quick. Okay, here it is. This is Hasted Vigor, and if you have this perk on your gear, you are going to be taking that extra 1% base damage because this is considered a non-dispellable buff. There is also two others while we're here, but these aren't hidden status effects like the ones that I just showed you. So let me go ahead and delete these, and let me see if I can find the other one. Here it is, Unimpeded. This is another one. This is the one on your amulet. If you have this perk, this one actually does show up on your UI tray, which is weird, but it is a permanent buff, non-dispellable buff, and you will be taking another 1% base damage. The other one that I wanted to talk about, this one is a bit like intuitive, like you'd expect it to work this way. Mortal Empowerment. If you have this one, this is another buff that's going to contribute to Invigorated Punishment, or I guess work against you if you have this. Alright, Penetrating the Empowered and Ghostly Embrace. both of these, look for the label of Empower here. So there's that one, and then for Ghostly Embrace, here it's looking for Empower. These kind of work the same way. And what I'm referencing to is the Ultimate Combat Trophy. And this only works for the Ultimate Combat Trophy because all of the other combat trophies, the ones that are the ones that you use to build the Ultimate Combat Trophy, are labeled differently. This one is Empower, but the rest of them are labeled as non-dispellable Empower. In fact, they're right here actually. Non-dispellable Empower for Major Human Combat Trophy, and these are all the same for all of the other ones, except for Ultimate Combat Trophy. Now, the way that it works with penetrating the Empowered, obviously, if you are attacking someone who has Ultimate Combat Trophy, you are essentially turning this 2-condition perk into a 1-conditional perk, because first you have to crit, and then second, your enemy has to have an empowered status effect on them. So now, obviously, if they just have Ultimate Combat Trophy, then all you have to do is crit. But this is where it gets a little weird. With Ghostly Embrace, because it actually removes the status effect, it is actually removing your Ultimate Combat Trophy. If somebody is attacking you, and if they have a Ghostly Touch, they can actually remove all of your combat trophies. Specifically your Ultimate Combat Trophies. And the only way to reapply them is to go to your house, remove the combat trophy, and then re-equip it to your house. Okay, so here is Distained Infliction, and Distained Infliction is a pretty good perk. It's not empowered, it's not base damage. It's essentially taking the final output of the damage formula and multiplying it by 15%. So let's say you put down a dot on your enemy and it's doing 1,000 damage, right? That's the damage number that shows up on your screen. You are now going to be doing 1,150 damage because it's straight up just 15% increase. Now what this perk is looking for is this dot label here, and that's really easy to sort for. Let's clear the filters again. Go to source. Let's remove this status effects AI with the exclamation mark, and then go to effect categories. Go to dot, and then here you can see pretty much all the dots that are going to be affected by Distained Infliction. And what I wanted to talk about was Ice Storm. You can see here there's Ice Magic Ice Storm damage and Ice Magic Ice Storm UT damage. What UT stands for is Unending Thaw. So these are both dots, and this will proc, or this will be procced by Distained Infliction. The only caveat to this is that anyone that is inside of your Ice Storm isn't going to be immediately taking that Distained Infliction damage. You have to hit them again with like an ability or a light attack, heavy attack, or with any weapon that has Distained Infliction for the dot damage to be increased on Ice Storm. Void Gauntlet Null Chamber Dot is also another hidden status effect, the same way Ice Storm is a hidden status effect for the dot portion specifically for some reason. So both Oblivion and Ice Storm will work the same way for Distained Infliction. You just have to actually proc it with an attack or an ability from any weapon.